Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. The overlords in the IT department have given me another task. I have been presented with 1, 2, 3 HP Elitebook 8470p laptops, and I've been tasked with making as many working ones out of these as I can. They all have some minor issue, so the aim is to combine the best parts from each to have 2 perfect laptops and 1 that is just for parts. As far as I know, there's no major issues with these. I think all the screens should work, all the motherboards should work, but pretty much everything else may or may not be swapped around with these. I've already looked through and labeled with sticky notes what is going on with each, and some specs. So this one has a bad touchpad, and it doesn't have feet on the bottom, and the battery is starting to go bad. This one, the battery is totally damaged, and it has less RAM than I would like it to, and a slightly slower CPU, and it's also missing the little rubber bit of the track point here. And then I never really extensively used these, I've just tested them. This one doesn't show any signs of life, but I actually have a feeling it will be the easiest to repair. So let me start off with this one. Here I have a charger. The hole is over here. So because the screen bends like this, I can easily show the camera what I'm doing. It's reversed from how I usually have the camera set up. So instead of looking over my shoulder, you're looking the other way. So I'm sitting like back here. So if anyone's confused, that's what's going on. So I press the power button and I wait. Oh! Interesting. That's actually more than it did earlier. So earlier when I tested it, this was a few days ago, I got flashes from the caps lock light. Now this time, the DVD drive is moving. So it's scanning that. So is this a screen issue? I'm not sure if it's posting. But I was getting 3 flashes from the caps lock indicator, which, oh yeah, my camera's too bad so that you can't read that actually. Sorry that I have to use this camera right now, filming not where I usually do. But I love these laptops because A, they're gorgeous, B, they are pretty indestructible, and C, it's literally that easy to open them. It is 1 latch, no screws, nothing. I've had the pleasure of working on probably like 10 or 15 of these. Most of them I've returned, some of them I've gotten to sell. Kind of wish I'd kept some. But what I'm gonna do is just a quick test of will this do anything. I'll just remove the RAM. We'll also take our battery out. That's not the issue, I just don't need it in right now. Let's see. Oh nice, so this laptop has 8 gigs of RAM. So, but they're not identical. They're identical in spec, but not in timing. Alright. I'll just... I think the bottom slot is like slot 0. So I'll just see what happens here. Come on. Okay, so you have some big problems. Or it could be that that one RAM stick is dead or something. So let me just let me just go with like a kit that I know works. I could also try reseating the CPU because these do have removable CPUs, but that is, that will be a last resort for sure. So if the motherboard is actually dead, then I'll probably move the trackpad from this laptop to a different one. I'll pick the 2 best physical condition chassis, and of course use those to build the laptop. Okay, whatever is going on with this is not good. I would think the screen is just broken. Oh. Yeah, okay, so you have serious issues. I'm just going to set you to the side and grab whatever parts I can out of this guy. It doesn't really matter where the SSDs come from because they're all identical. These actually have SSDs. They are 128 gigabyte drives from Samsung, and I will be keeping those. These have 3rd gen i5 CPUs, so my school wants to keep them in service but doesn't want to pour a lot of money into them. So this is kind of what we've resorted to doing and what the IT department and I have resorted to doing with these laptops. We just take salvageable parts and repair laptops with like slightly worse condition ones. These are always a little annoying to get out, these Elitebook caddies, because the space in here is very tight. There we go. So yeah, we have a little SATA 3 SSD here. Alright, this one has an i5 3320M CPU. It has 4 gigs of RAM, and of course a 128 gig drive. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is just remove this. Oh, come on. I almost had it all off. There we go. That's the last piece. Okay. We have a small dent here and here, but overall, this is a very good physical condition laptop. I just love the design of these, honestly. Like, they are just gorgeous. I will also be removing it from the inside and the touchpad. I do not know why HP puts this stuff on the touchpad, because it makes the touchpad feel very bad, but I actually quite like the touchpad on these laptops when this stuff is not on it. Oh my god. And the nice thing about having these on them for their whole like 10 years of service is when I get them in for repair and take it off, often, like unless the previous owner hasn't already removed it or you know, hit the laptop especially hard, they look as good as new under that. And I will commend HP, the glue does come off pretty easily. So it doesn't leave any gross sticky residue. So when you do go to remove this stuff, it's not something that you'll have to do any additional cleaning. It just peels off and then it's off. I gotta be really careful with removing this from the touchpad because we already have one with a failed touchpad and I do not want to increase that number. Okay, of course it doesn't come off of just this one corner. and I shoved it between the touchpad and the case. Whoops. Alright, so let me just verify the specs on this. I have them written down here. Oddly long post time. Oh yeah, this is the one with the bad battery, and that really affects post time as well as other things on these laptops. So yeah, this one has an i5 3320M and 8 gigabytes of RAM. The battery is so dead that it doesn't even recognize that there is one in the BIOS. That latch is a little jammed. There we go. Okay. I think I might take a gamble, because that laptop that I set over there that was like totally dead, because it had 8 gigabytes of RAM, I'm going to assume it had the more powerful CPU, an i5 3350M? No, 3340M. It clocks a little bit higher. So I'm going to take the CPU out of that one and put it in this one and hope that A, the CPU works, and that B, it's a more high performance one. Alright, this is DDR3 1600. I might as well use the kit from the other laptop so that I'm not using any of my own personal RAM. Alright. Of course, never swap multiple parts at a time, so like when you're trying to troubleshoot something, don't swap multiple parts at a time. Okay, it still posts. So now I'm going to go for a CPU swap. So I'll put the sticker from that one on there so I remember what it is. I don't want to separate the parts too much and forget what goes where. Even though they are all identical laptops, there are things like the Windows keys that are tied to each one, so I don't want to lose the back or like accidentally move the back to the wrong one, because I'll be reinstalling Windows and reactivating it with the key from the back. This is the nice thing about these older laptops. Everything is swappable. That's why I pretty much only work on laptops of this vintage, because I like repairable things. Now, if I pop the CPU in that laptop and it doesn't post anymore, then I can pretty confidently say that the issue with this one was not a dead motherboard, but instead a dead CPU. And that would be something that, you know, I would just ask the IT department. A new 3rd gen i5 can't be that expensive. So in that case, we probably would just buy another CPU if it meant keeping this machine in service. Alright, that should get our heatsink out. Not very dusty, actually. That's very clean. Also, it's nice that the plate is this big and flat, like the actual cold plate. That's the one connected to the heat pipe, but this area is a contact area for the CPU VRMs, and power delivery cooling is something that HP nowadays sure could do a much better job with. And that reminds me, I'll give the heat sinks a good clean while I'm at it, because inevitably, over almost a decade of service, and I don't think these have ever been cleaned because I don't think I've worked on these particular machines. After a decade, inevitably, thermal paste is going to dry out, heat sink's going to get some dust on it, so I will be alleviating both of those issues today. Also, something I never noticed is the heatsink is actually numbered over the screws of which to take out. It's labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, telling you to take it out diagonally. And that is actually quite important with bare die CPUs, because with no IHS, if you install it wrong, you could crack the die of the CPU. So it's pretty nice that they guide you through that process. So let me just grab this guy after I finish unscrewing the screw. Ooh, this heatsink is a little bit dustier than the last, actually. They're at an awkward angle, so you do kind of have to wiggle them. I will repaste the CPUs. I will not just leave it like this. But for now, I'm just going to pop it in and screw in 2 of the screws on the heatsink so that I can have it on long enough for me to get into the BIOS and see what chip this is, and to see if it's a better chip or if I've in fact made a mistake in swapping it. Oh. Well darn. That was another i5-3320M. So I just installed the exact same CPU. Also, one thing I noticed really quickly is the sockets are different between these two motherboards. You can see this one has more of this angular design on the edges, and this one is more square on the edges. It also has this metal piece there, and that one does not. So, oh yeah, and the serial number on the RAM slots is different. So that makes me think this is a slightly different revision of the motherboard. I feel like this one would be a later revision. Also, I'm pretty sure that I've opened up a few of these where the wireless card only has 2 antennas connected, and these both have 3. It's so fun to do that. Alright, so now that we've, oh, that's actually still a little dusty. So now that we've cleaned our heat sinks, time to get some rubbing alcohol and clean the bottom of the heat sink. Now, okay, yeah, I was going to put the other CPU in this laptop, aka the original one. I wonder if these would take an i7. I bet they would, actually. You could get these with like optional, I think it was a Fire Pro, might have been Radeon, or like an NVS graphics card. That would have been interesting to see. Under here, I assume that's just our chipset. Alright, opening a fresh bottle of rubbing alcohol. Now, I recommend using the highest purity of alcohol you can find. Like, I honestly would recommend above 90% as the bare minimum, because the other like 10% is stuff that'll leave a residue or just water. And you do not want that on your CPU. That's fine for medical purposes, but oftentimes you don't want to use low purity stuff, especially if you're doing more analog things like cleaning tape heads or floppy disk drive heads, because that all leaves a residue, and that could severely damage your disks, your tape, or whatever. Personally, I would say 3rd generation Intel, like business laptops, are my favorite era of laptops, because they're well, personally, I just prefer business laptops overall because they're simple, they're clean looking, and they're actually well built. They're easy to repair, they're easy to upgrade, and they have great cooling. But I think 3rd gen is really the sweet spot of like when a laptop design peaked. These, I'll show you more of the insides in a second, or like these are the insides, but you know what I mean, like when you open the lid of the laptop. It's just very, very good looking. And yes, this is total overkill, but I am going to use Corsair TM30 on this 3rd gen i5, and you cannot stop me. That was a little bit too much, but hey, it's fine. At least it's not as much as the, where did I put it? Yeah, that's gonna be less than this mess that HP did. So that should run a little bit cooler now. And did I clean the fan? Yes, I did. How lovely, how kind of me. So I recall, oh, I was going to take a battery from another laptop and put it in this one to see if, because it's not recognizing the battery at all. So that could just be a fault of the battery, but it also could be like the battery circuit in the laptop has issues. And hopefully it's not, because that means I would be replacing the entire motherboard. So let me just pop in another battery that's in poor condition, but at least recognized in the BIOS as a battery. We're not getting the low battery message yet, at least. Yay! Okay, so we have a battery serial number in the BIOS. So that means, yeah, this battery just had something extra wrong with it. Maybe the little chip in there that identifies the battery to the laptop had also died, in addition to the battery just being dead. And wow, until you hold one of these, you really don't realize just how heavy these are on their own. This accounts for, I'd say it's a good like 20 to 30% of the weight of the laptop, maybe more, just the battery. And this is a good sturdy chassis, keep that in mind. So this, okay, this also didn't have a track point nub. Or not track point, IBM wouldn't want me saying that. What's the non-IBM term for these things? Point stick, that's the word. So yeah, I mean, you could still theoretically use it with this little square, but it's just not ergonomic or pleasant. So I'll just pop the little nub from the dead laptop on there. So we have a perfectly working laptop here, and this case is in quite good condition. I'll clean up the minor scuffs with alcohol later, but laptop 1 is finished. So let's put the back on it, and then let's get it out of here. On this USB drive, I have a fresh Windows install. I also have Crystal Disk Info, so I can check the health status of the SSDs. Because these are nice SSDs, but if they're below 50% health, I won't redeploy them. So I'll just see what SSDs are the best, and just use the 2 best SSDs in our 2 repaired laptops. Now here's the tricky part. I know that I'm going to have to replace the touchpad on that laptop, this one, because I tested it earlier and it's completely dead. It only works if you use your elbow on it like that, which is very, very odd. So I'm thinking somehow the resistance of it is just way off. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to disassemble the totally dead laptop and get the touchpad out of it first as the replacement. Because if I break something while learning how to take these apart, it'll be the dead one that I break instead of the good one. Although, you know, I've worked on my personal laptop, a slightly older HP ProBook, in a similar chassis before, and they're pretty easy. I'm sorry, my dog will not stop walking around. Okay, so it has these little rubber stoppers. I'm going to keep these around in case the other laptops are missing them, but those just cover the screws on the bottom. Also, I'm noticing, doesn't look like there's any on the board, but there's like a brown stain on the fan, and it's not dust. Oh, yeah, so up here on the fan, can you not walk around, please? So up here on the fan, and like in this area, looks like liquid, like maybe chocolate milk, honestly. Coffee wouldn't look like that. So yeah, we appear to have a liquid damaged motherboard. As I am, you know, yeah, make sure not to set your drinks on your computers because that's not a good thing to do. So these older HP laptops have this kind of mid-frame where this whole part will lift up to reveal the motherboard, and then from there I can take out the motherboard. It's a little bothersome to work on, but I far prefer this layout to a laptop that opens from the keyboard side. Those are just not very fun to work on at all. Also, the speakers on this laptop are my main complaint with it. They don't sound very good, and here we can definitely see why. The actual speaker unit is incredibly thin, and this is the only speaker, so it basically sounds mono. You get this one that faces towards you, and you get this one that fires at your table. And, well yeah, it sounds pretty bad, honestly. The trouble is, there are a lot of things screwed to the midframe, and you have to detach all of those before you can actually take the thing out, which is the slightly bothersome thing about this layout. Oh no, and it's screwed in from the back. Yeah, I've never done, like I've repaired these before, but I've never done one where I've had to remove the motherboard. Like I've never done a keyboard or touchpad repair. You have to do something similar for screen repair, but those just detach from the back. You don't have to take as much out. So yeah, this will be the most complex repair that I've ever done on one of these before. Also, looking at the layout here, it looks like the fan gets intake from the keyboard as well as from the bottom vent. So you still get airflow, like not very much, but you still do get airflow through the keyboard even if the bottom fan is blocked, and that is fantastic because you're not always going to be on a perfectly flat surface where the feet will keep the bottom of the laptop elevated enough off the surface to give you good airflow. There are so many different screw sizes. Like, who at HP decided, you know what, just to take out the midframe, we should have 3 different screw sizes. Some of them are these Torx T8 screws, but then others are just things that are secured to the frame. I could be going about this incorrectly, and instead maybe I'm supposed to take off the top, but I don't think that I'm supposed to take off the keyboard side. Because again, I've worked on a couple of these in my day, and on these old HP laptops, this frame is usually what comes up. Besides, I need to detach all this crap anyway to get the top out. I'm going to fully detach the fan so it's not just limp, flopping around like a fish. Oh yeah, here we can see more of that liquid. So that, I guess, solves the mystery of what caused the demise of you. The tricky thing is, though, I don't want to break this touchpad trying to take it out, because then I would be down 2 working touchpads. Okay, there we go. I feel like the DVD drive may... Ooh, okay. There are more screws hiding under the DVD drive. Like, just look at the pile of screws. All of these screws on the table are the ones strictly needed to remove the mid-frame from this laptop. So if you have one of these, please don't break the touchpad, because this is what it's like to repair. It's one of those things where it's not actually too difficult, but it's just time-consuming. Okay, so then these little plastic snaps... Actually, no, those are metal snaps. Yes, okay. Okay, how do I guess the smart card reader just has to stay on this bit. And then those wires don't... What is going on here? Oh, that's to the modem. Okay. Is that? What do you do? What are you two? Yeah, that's to the modem. I think I should just... Yeah, there we go. Disconnect from the modem. Now our speakers and all of that good stuff is out. So we now just get access to the laptop. Here is our... Is this our... What is this? Not Express card. No, that is Express card, yeah. All of that just to get to the CMOS battery? I would not want to replace the CMOS battery on one of these. There's our chipset also, and it's nice. It actually has a thermal pad, because this is an aluminum frame. So this thermal pad heat sinks from the chipset. Okay, so now, oh wow. Oh my god, that is horrible. Sorry, I just gotta take a picture of that to send to the IT department. Look at all of this liquid damage. So yeah, that that answers that question. This motherboard has no chance of ever being brought back to life ever again. Wow. That is very dramatic. The battery in my camera is starting to run low, so I'm going to take out the board from this one, get the touchpad out, and then I'll charge it while I'm putting the touchpad into the other laptop, because it'll be a literally identical process of removing the board and all of that good stuff. Ooh, Centrino Ultimate N6300. That's a pretty good wireless card. I'll keep that around. Like, a lot of the screws, there are only 2 like bits, only 2 different screwdrivers that you need to work on these. A Torx T8 and an M2. But the actual screw sizes. There are like 15 different screws. So you gotta keep track of that very, very well. Which I'm actually not doing at all with this laptop, because I am not going to be putting it back together after seeing what's going on here. Now those PCBs, okay, so the little card reader here, sorry, not card reader, the express card slot has an edge connector that plugs into this PCB. If you've ever worked on an iPhone, it reminds me a lot of the connectors that they use inside of an iPhone. It's that sort of little plug. So I guess they had to do that because it couldn't be one continuous PCB. This one's mounted slightly below. Okay, so here, finally, it's been about half an hour just to get to the touchpad, and there it is. Now, laptop motherboards are oddly shaped. Oh, there's a SIM slot. I actually never noticed that. Oh, good lord. On the other side of the board here, we can see even more of that liquid damage, and that is very, very bad looking. I guess that's our keyboard connector. And yeah, that just slipped out when I took the board out. Then here's more of the liquid damage and our little power switches, or not power switches, this little power switch is over here. This is like volume mute, the web browser switch, and the like wireless switch. Yeah, I'm amazed this thing even like lit up, because the power circuitry over here is still somewhat intact and undamaged. So I suppose that's how it just even turned on. This part is salvageable, and the keyboard actually is salvageable. It looks like all of the damage is up in the battery area. None of it went in the predictable areas. Oh, here is the fingerprint reader. That's a cool feature of these laptops. And then here is the little, I guess, digital encoder for the track point, or the point stick movements. Oh, that's odd. So this connector doesn't just carry express card signals. It carries signals from the point stick, the touchpad, and okay, that cable also goes to the touchpad. So there are two cables from the touchpad. That's very strange. Again, I've never been this deep in in one of these Elitebooks. It's rare I get this deep in a laptop at all, but I've never seen a layout like this. This is annoying because this connector plugs in through the board, so that consequently makes it very difficult to unplug, because you only have so many inches to do so. They give you very little clearance. I'll just use a flat screwdriver to pry this tape off. Oh. And again, if I break one of these... Oh, okay. So that's connected to the touchpad there. So that's a soldered cable. I'm so glad that it was replaceable on one end, because if it was like permanently attached to the touchpad and this module, I would have had to replace this whole module in the other laptop. And that is not what I was feeling like doing today. I would assume one of these cables is for just like touch and the other is for the buttons. Could be totally wrong, but that's just a wild guess there. I'll have to take out the latch that keeps the laptop closed. You know, at this point, well, no, actually I won't. I was thinking of replacing the whole upper assembly. Like this whole part, I'd just move it over to the other laptop. But with the liquid damage, I don't think I will do that. Oh, and these plastic clips that hold it in that I will just break off, because that is easier than properly removing them. And I am never going to use this chassis ever again. Okay, here's our touchpad. This little thing has caused me so much trouble. Also, it's very heavy for what it is. Let's see. Yeah, this is a little Synaptics touchpad, as it says there. And it also has light on part numbers on it, which is cool. The actual touchpad itself extends a little further than the area you see in the case, which is interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna move this over to the other laptop. Again, same process, and once my camera battery charges, you might catch the end of that.